Okay, so welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're looking at something that I think is really interesting.
Okay.
And honestly, it's something that can be applied,
Yeah.
not just to golf, but honestly, like anything that you do.
Okay.
And that is really this idea of like excitement and arousal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, how do you balance that excitement when something good happens
Mm-hmm.
without letting it completely derail your performance?
Yeah.
And we have a really fascinating document
Okay.
that we're looking at today that is all about post-swing routines and mental strategy.
Hmm.
So let's say you're out there and you absolutely crush a drive,
Yeah.
right? It just feels amazing.
Yeah.
But how do you then harness that energy and not let it like completely derail the rest of your game?
Right. It's such a good point because it's something that we all deal with. It's not just in golf. It's
Mm.
in, any kind of performance activity.
Yeah.
So let's just think about what happens when we get excited. What's going on in our bodies and our minds? When we get that surge of excitement, when you've hit that great shot,
Yeah.
your nervous system, it gets flooded with arousal.
Okay, so what does that like actually feel like in your body though?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can think about a time when you were really nervous,
Okay.
maybe before a big presentation or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, you might have felt your heart racing,
Mm.
your palms sweating. That's arousal kicking in.
Okay.
And so, on the golf course, that can translate into muscle tension.
Okay.
And, it can be really hard to execute smooth swings.
Right, because it's almost like if you try to sign your name
Yeah,
and like your hand is shaking,
yeah, yeah.
you're not going to be able to do it very precise.
Exactly. And it's not just about, fine motor skills.
Mm.
You know that tension can mess with your tempo,
Yeah.
your balance. It makes it harder to swing consistently,
Right.
but it goes beyond the physical too.
Oh, so you're talking like the mental game.
Yeah, the mental game, you get overly excited, your mind starts racing with all sorts of thoughts. Suddenly you're not fully present in the moment, and that can really throw you off.
That makes total sense. And this document that we're looking at today, they highlight some really interesting observations
Okay.
from pro golfers.
Okay.
And one of them is David Faraday,
Oh, yeah.
who has played on both the European and PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And he talks about how less experienced players often fall into this excitement trap.
Yeah, and he observed something really interesting. He saw that, those outward bursts of emotion, the fist pumps,
Right.
to jumps for joy, all that.
Yeah.
They're almost like red flags,
Okay.
because it might be that they're getting ahead of themselves emotionally.
Yeah.
And they're losing focus.
So it's almost like celebrating before you've won the race.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like they're celebrating a victory before they've crossed the finish line.
Exactly. And I could definitely say that. As a fairly new golfer,
Yeah.
I fell into this trap all the time where I would hit one good shot and then the next like 3 shots were awful.
Totally. And even the seasoned pros, they have to be really mindful of this. Tom Kite, who won the US Open in 1992, he said that, when he would hit a great shot,
Yeah.
he would feel that urge to celebrate, but he knew he had to kind of keep his emotions in check because he had so much golf left to play.
Right, because you're not done. You've got like 17 more holes,
Exactly.
you know.
So knowing that, how do the pros handle it?
Well, one of the most powerful tools that they use is positive self-talk,
Okay.
both before and after shots.
So like instead of just letting your mind race with those exciting thoughts, you're
Mhm.
actively like shaping your internal dialogue.
Exactly. It's about
Uh,
keeping that conversation encouraging but controlled. And the document gives a great example.
Yeah.
It says, that was a great drive. That is perfect position for my approach shot. I drive the ball well. I am a good player.
I like that.
Like
Because
it-
you're acknowledging that it was a good shot.
But you're not letting it become like this big distraction.
Exactly. It's about keeping it in perspective.
It reminds me of Greg Norman
Oh, yeah.
and his approach to self-encouragement. I remember reading somewhere that he was like really, leans on that inner voice.
Yeah, he really emphasizes building up that inner voice.
Ah,
Because sometimes you're not going to have that external support.
right.
You're out there on the course. You're by yourself.
You got to be your own cheerleader.
Exactly. You got to be your own
So
cheerleader.
how do you actually like do that? Like, what does that even sound like?
Well, it's a little bit different for everyone.
Okay.
But a lot of it comes down to just choosing what you focus on. So instead of dwelling on your mistakes, You shift your attention to your strengths,
Okay.
your past successes. So it might sound something like, okay, that one didn't go as planned, but I've hit this shot well before.
Yeah.
I know I can do it
So it's
again.
like building up this mental library
Yeah.
of all of your best shots
Exactly. And all those positive experiences.
that you can pull on when things get rough.
Yeah. And the document also talks about this interesting technique called stamping good shots into memory.
Stamping them into memory.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of weird.
It sounds a little strange, but it's a very powerful mental strategy.
Okay.
So when you hit that great shot,
Yeah.
take a moment to really savor it, replay it in your mind,
Right. Yeah.
and just imprint that feeling of success.
Yeah.
You're essentially creating like a positive anchor you can access later when you need a boost of confidence.
So it's almost like building your own personal highlight reel of your
Exactly.
best shots.
Yeah, it's a way of harnessing that excitement and turning it into something that works for you rather than against you.
I like that. So we've been talking about this idea of post-swing routine, mental strategies, and it all really comes back to this idea of internal dialogue or, self-talk.
Self-talk, that's the key. And here's the thing.
Okay.
If you want that self-talk on the course to be positive and supportive, you got to be working on those conversations that you have with yourself off the course.
So it's not just about those few hours on the course.
Mm-hmm.
It's about cultivating like a more positive mindset overall.
Exactly. It's about that overall mindset. The way you talk to yourself, the beliefs that you hold about your abilities. All of that plays a role in shaping your performance.
So that's a really powerful takeaway. We've learned a lot about how the pros manage their excitement, how they use self-talk, how they stay focused under pressure. So now I want to hear from you. What are your strategies for staying positive and in the zone, whether it's on the golf course or at work or just everyday life? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think, and we will see you next time for another deep dive.